The ANC's acting Secretary-General has been nominated as Deputy President of the ANC ahead of next month's national conference.
And SABC News political editor Mzwandile Mbeje will be in conversation. In fact, he is now going to be in conversation with Paul Mashatile to find out more about the man and his political aspirations. Mzwandile, over to you.
Well, a very good evening to you, Francis and Bongewe. Indeed, as you have correctly said, I'm with the Treasurer General of the ANC, who happens to hold many other positions. It's quite unique, given the circumstances around the governing party. He's actually also the acting Secretary General. If you like, you can even include the Deputy Secretary General, because all those duties he had to handle. And there's just another addition just lately, the ANC Deputy Presidential nominee. You see, I don't know whether you'll be able to handle all those titles that he's faced with. Well, on a serious note, Mr. Mashatile,
yes.
Are you coping with the kind of work that you are facing?
It's quite tough, but when there were challenges, the NEC requested that I assist the SGO. You'll recall that the only full-time officials at Luthuli House was the Secretary General, Deputy Secretary General, and myself. So it had to fall on me to take over and make sure that we don't collapse. I must say we've done well so far under difficult circumstances. We will be able to arrive at conference and have a very successful conference.
Well, many were quite critical, though, of this move by the ANC to say it really has weakened the ANC in many aspects. In fact, I remember at some point the former president even saying it's unconstitutional.
Indeed, I think the Secretary General's office is a very important office. Many people regard it as the engine of the organization. So if you don't have the SG, Deputy SG, you are weaker. But I must say I have a very good team at Luthuli House that works with me, comrades in organizing, in communication, those who are doing research and various other activities. We work very well, we pull everything together. The SGO has been strengthened. We make sure that the officials meet every week. The NWC fortnightly, and the NEC at least once a quarter. And sometimes we have special NEC meetings because things are moving fast.
Yeah.
I think the biggest challenge for us was to run regional conferences, provincial conferences. We ran more than 40 regional conferences and about 7 provincial conferences. And I think all of them have gone well so far. There have been disputes there and there, but nothing that we couldn't deal with. Even now with national conference, we're probably less than 100 disputes at the moment that we will finish quite soon.
Yeah, well, talking about some of the disputes in those conferences that you've been running, there's been a threat in some areas of illegal action. Are you prepared for this? Will you be able to defend every action you've taken?
Well, we always anticipate that there may be comrades who are unhappy about this or that. If we look at our experience of running regional conferences, we were faced with situations like that. So what we've done in the SGO was to make sure that we don't cut corners. Everything we do, we follow the rules. We make sure we are constitutional, so that if somebody complains, we must not be found wanting. But, you know, even if you do things very well, try to be as perfect as you can, there will be someone out there who's not happy. And therefore, we need to be prepared for those eventualities. But I'm confident that we've done our best to stay within the rules and the Constitution.
Yeah. If you do anticipate some of those actions from certain members, is it not saying something perhaps about the trustworthiness or the integrity of some of the work you do. Because if you do something that everyone can just have a buy-in on, you don't have to worry about those.
Well, I think we have a lot of buy-in, but maybe let me indicate that at the time we started with the processes of conference, we had 3,950 plus branches in good standing.
Yes.
It's quite a huge number. And at the moment, as I speak to you, more than 3,500 branches have made it. And therefore, it means it has been a mammoth task. We're actually almost 90% of branches in good standing that have qualified. So you're talking about a huge conference. We're expecting plus minus 4,500 delegates. And if you add other categories, also the guests, ambassadors, fraternal organization, the alliance, security, etc., you will have no less than 6,000 people during that conference in Nasrec. So it's quite a big task.
On the running of your elections up towards the conference, you were using a new system, the QR codes.
Yes.
And we know that other people were complaining, saying they're being manipulated. How widespread did you get some of those concerns from the membership? And how worried are you that some people could use actually this to perhaps lodge complaints even at the conference?
In fact, if you look at the new system that we have implemented, the truth is to the contrary. In fact, the system makes it sure that there is no manipulation because it's real-time, cloud-based. So when a BGM takes place, we will check on the system whether they have more than 100 members. The system will tell us, yes, they are. So when comrades arrive at the BGM, they have to be scanned. Their IDs have to be scanned. And the system will indicate whether you are in good standing or not. So it doesn't need any individual organizer to do that. The system itself will say, well, Mzwandile is not in good standing, so he can't come into the conference. So I think it has been quite helpful. And, you know, we are now becoming a modern party. We are modernizing. So we have to go through this process of issuing QR codes, going digital. I think it's working very well.
Some of your conferences were held at the credentials level. I remember Gauteng, it had to be concluded over 2 weeks. I remember the Eastern Cape, it only dealt with serious issues on the last day. Of course, there were those who went smoothly. Are we not going to witness something similar at the national conference where credentials will stop the conference?
I don't think so. In fact, the reason why we're taking our time and making sure that BGMs go and rerun again and again is actually to prevent that. So that by the time you come to conference, you have less disputes. Because the disputes are the one that makes it difficult to adopt credentials. So what we have done, I mean, I met one comrade in Soweto. I went to a function, and the comrade came to me and said, TG, you know, our branches were only short about 3 people. And I said, no, go and rerun, because that will create a dispute. If we allow you, you are below 50 plus 1, others are going to complain. So we make branches to rerun again and again, some of them 3 times. So if you look at more than 3,500 branches, are actually branches who have made it. Clean, no cutting corners, and therefore less disputes and less challenges for your credentials in conference.
When you look at your whole process, the electoral committee, for example, one of your senior members actually disputed some of the outcome of the nomination process, which came out through the electoral committee, Mamlindi Sisulu. So if someone as senior as her would still feel there are things that are not done right, so what would stop from an ordinary member from raising an issue because he or she would have seen the senior do the same? So does that not really call into question some of your processes?
Well, you recall that the Electoral Commission is run separately from the SGO, is chaired by Comrade Khalima. So I don't deal with nominations, nobody in the SGO. So Comrade Lindy was right to complain to them if she feels that things are going right. I think it's also good if comrades complain early rather than late, because then the commission can check if there are problems. I think the rules allow that whoever is not satisfied must raise their complaints so that they are dealt with. They must not wait until we get into conference. It will be too late. So I don't think it's a problem. If somebody feels, the nominations announced are not the number I know of, indeed, contact the Electoral Commission. They have the stats. They'll be able to help you.
Treasurer General, we are talking about the ANC, which happens to be the governing party.
Yeah.
Why should ordinary South Africans actually care that we are going to a conference, we are going to elect leadership?
Well, South Africans do care because if the ANC elect wrong people, leaders who are not credible, leaders who are not interested in fighting corruption, leaders who don't care about them, then they will be in trouble. So they are watching. Some of them are not in our branches, but they are very interested to know, come December, beyond the 20th, who actually will be at the helm of the organization, and also, being sure that these are leaders that will help change things in the country. We want to fix not only the ANC, but we want to fix what is happening in government. Many people complain that we sometimes move too slow in implementation, so we need to speed up. And they must get a sense that the leadership that is coming will do exactly that.
So the current leadership, do you get the sense that they've been doing exactly that, or they've been lacking somewhere?
Well, I think the comrades have been trying their best. It has not been easy, especially if you look at the fact that we had COVID-19. That period of COVID-19, little could be done. And so we're in a sense in a period of recovery. And we need to give everybody a benefit of the doubt that if it was not for COVID, they would have moved faster.
Yeah.
But now, let's get involved in the recovery phase.
Okay. Maybe let's not talk about COVID because it's just recent. South Africans have really been complaining about poor services, particularly in municipalities. Who do you blame for that? In most parts of the country?
Well, most of the municipalities are run by comrades who are members of the ANC.
Yes.
So when there are weaknesses and mistakes there, we take responsibility. In fact, we have spent a lot of time going to all these municipalities. You have seen us going around the country. In fact, in many instances, we have even changed the comrades who are deployed there, because we know that if they fail, we will be blamed. And we can't run away. Where our comrades are responsible and they are failing, we must take responsibility. But the important thing is that we must implement and change things. Let's not leave comrades, if they are failing, to sit there and continue. And we have not done so. We have changed many of those municipalities.
Outside of some of the achievements that you may have scored in the years gone by, so are you disappointed with the manner in which some of your comrades have executed their responsibilities? I mean, one of the hallmarks really of the past few years is the potholes everywhere, not just in one town. Perhaps if it was in one town, you would say this leadership here was wrong. But you go across, you go to Limpopo, KZN, Eastern Cape, everywhere, people are complaining about the same thing. And the ANC has been in power in most of those municipalities. What went wrong? Why should people trust the ANC again?
Well, indeed, there are areas where we have had poor leadership. And, when we have poor leadership, things do go wrong. But in some places, comrades are battling with resources. Some municipalities don't have a tax base. Absolutely none. It doesn't mean you can go and whip them and do whatever. They don't have those resources. They are relying on national government. National government is also overstretched. But we will prioritize these issues. I mean, we are determined to go out there and check. If comrades are not fixing potholes and resources are being squandered elsewhere, the ANC must remove them and put people who are going to fix the roads and not squander the resources. So, yes, we have had those weaknesses, but we are intervening.
So, are you hopeful that the leadership that will be elected in Nasrec in the next 18 days will be able to rise up to the challenge of those issues?
More than hopeful. I think we have men and women who are determined to hit the ground running.
Why? Because most of the people who will be elected from the nominations are people we've always known about, are people who have been in positions.
Well, I think there will be a mixture in December. I foresee a situation where you'll have new blood, particularly young people with a lot of energy. I would like to see more young people in the NEC, even if it's 60% of the NEC, full of young people who can run, who can go out there and change things.
The current leadership is obviously left with 18 days. And then you have been part of this current leadership. If you were to give yourself marks out of 10, how much would you give yourself?
I'd rather leave that to the branches. I think they must score me. I believe I'm working...
Not you as an individual, I'm talking about leadership.
Oh, around the whole team.
All of the years.
Yeah, well, let's look at who will be nominated and elected in December. Okay, we can see the nominations are coming in. The additionals have not come in yet.
Yes.
But for me, a sign of confidence. The also says, you may not have done everything, but we want to give you another chance. So if they bring us who have been there, they are actually saying, look, go again for it. And therefore, we must not disappoint them. Let's go and if they think that we're 8 out of 10, we must now push to 9 out of 10 or even 10 out of 10.
Do you think the current leadership should be changed? I'm specific now, at the top 6 level?
Well, I think the branches don't quite think so. If you look at the nominations, they may not nominate all of us, but it's clear that some are being nominated. I always believe that the branches must have a final say, because they are the ones that are measuring us, they are the ones who are watching us. Even this thing of how the other candidates are doing, I don't think we should judge one another or even select one another. Let the branches do that.
Let me talk to Paul Mashatile, a member of the ANC, not the TG, not the person nominated.
Yeah.
So who would you nominate as president of the
party?
The ANC?
Well, at the moment, you know what I do? When I go to my branch as a leader, I always don't want to take the front part. And when they say, let's nominate the president, I'm the one raising the hand or my hand first. I always pull back, allow the ordinary branches to be the ones that nominate and convince me that's the right way. So far, I've kept my deputy, because I think It's not correct when candidates start selecting one another.
That is the duty of the branches. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah.
You are a branch member. It's your duty. As a branch member. That is why I said I'm removing these titles that bar you from speaking. I'm speaking to a branch member right now.
Yeah, you say when you are a leader, it's very difficult to remove the title. So when I get to my branch in LX, they see the TG.
Okay.
They don't
I see you avoiding me here. Who did your branch leader nominate? Your branch?
In Alex?
Yes.
Comrade Cyril.
Did you go along with it?
Well, unfortunately, that day I was not there, but I respect what my branches want.
Do you respect what your branches want? So you support it as well?
I respect what they want.
Okay. Yeah. You've also been nominated as the Deputy President of the ANC. So something, you also issued a statement thanking the membership. What will you bring should the members say, indeed, you are our Deputy President? What is it that you are going to do differently or you're going to bring to the organization that we don't know about?
Well, firstly, let me say I'm very humbled by the nomination. It means it's a sign of confidence. All I can promise, not only the branches of the ANC, but even South Africans that support us out there, that I will work hard. I will work as part of the collectives, and I will focus on what people see as a priority. They want to see an economy that is growing,
yes,
economy that is creating jobs. They want to see people having clean, drinkable water. They want to see load shedding being something of the past. So to the extent that my colleagues and the collective will be working hard to resolve those issues, I will be there.
You know, Mr. Mashatile, I've really heard this so many times. You know, the advantage I have is that I've been around in this industry for quite some time.
Yes, I know.
That this kind of talk,
yeah,
I've heard it for a long time from the leaders of the ANC. It's not new. So what is it that will be different this time around?
Well, we are making a commitment, and
but you've made it before. You've made it before.
But we come December, there will be a new leadership, and I have no doubt that this new leadership will change things. I want to be part of that collective because I think I can make a contribution.
Are you worried that a province like KZN, I know they're not very open, but they've something they are saying that they may withdraw their support for you because you may not have come to the party. So I don't know what that means. I'm sure in your own party lingo you are able to understand each other. Are you not worried that you may actually end up not making it?
No, I'm not worried at all. You know, national conference is not a decision of one province. And I think the sooner many of our comrades understand that, the better. But the good thing is that the comrades in KZN are engaging with other comrades. If there's something that irritates them, they will talk to other comrades. They've been moving around. They've been to Limpopo, Gauteng. As we speak, discussions are going on. So I think we should look forward to a situation where comrades will find one another because we have huge responsibilities we must deal with come next year. And I think we must not be fighting over petty things.
Huge responsibilities. The people who are the front runners for the position of President Cyril Ramaphosa and Dr. Zweli Mkhize, I know they are not charged, but they are facing some issues. The Phala Phala issue with President Ramaphosa and the digital vibes with Dr. Mkhize. Does that worry you, that the people, any of the person who could be president could be facing some of those difficulties immediately after being elected?
Well, firstly, let me say the President did indicate to the NEC that he would like to see due process taking place and that we should wait for those reports. The NEC agreed. Dr. Mkhize as well is going through due process. I know that there are some other issues that he has appealed against. So my attitude is that let's give the comrades an opportunity to go through those processes. I don't think we should condemn anyone.
I think I understand that, TG. But I think my question is basically, as the ANC, not necessarily you as an individual, as the ANC, as the collective, here are people who could potentially be faces of the ANC come the 20th of December. And then we know there are some issues that they are faced with. And if, let's say, any of them wins and then they get charged, so that should be a great concern to you as the party.
Well, if I understand you, you are saying we could potentially face a crisis.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The ANC has for many years been able to deal with moments of crisis. I have confidence that at that particular point, if we have such an eventuality, the ANC will rise to the occasion.
Let's say that the membership decides that, well, maybe let's wait on these comrades.
Yeah.
Let's look at other comrades who may not be faced with similar situation. And then they come to Paul Mashatile to say, actually, we had nominated you for deputy, but clearly, given our assessment, we actually think from the floor we want you to run for president. You may consider.
Well, I don't think at this stage it's something that is on the card. My sense is that we are 18 days before conference. We will go through with all candidates we have. If in future there are challenges, the NEC will meet, review the situation. We may even call the National General Council and say, look, we have a crisis here. What do you do? And what the General Council might consider might not even be Paul Mashatile, it might be somebody else. But we will cross that bridge.
In this instance, I'm talking to Paul Mashatile. Yeah. I'm laying out a scenario in the next 18 days.
Well, Paul Mashatile is part of that collective. The day there is a moment that the ANC has a crisis, the NEC want to review, or the National General Council, I will be there with the collective, but I cannot say sitting here, they have to choose me or they'll have to choose me.
Let me put it this way. You are available for deputy president.
Yeah.
Are you available for president?
No, for deputy.
You are not available for president?
No.
Even if the floor rises and says Mr. Mashatile should rise?
I don't think there will be a floor.
Well, we always get told when we ask people about not getting nominated, and they say, we'll rise from the floor. If the floor decides Mr. Mashatile must rise as the president, will you reject that?
Well, at the moment, there is no indication that we have a crisis. We have two candidates running.
But I've said something about them facing issues. That is why I'm specific on Paul Mashatile. He is asked to rise from the floor.
Well, you will be at the conference. If there's that eventuality, I'm sure you'll see a caucus meeting. They'll come and brief you what's happening. I think for now we should not speculate beyond this because we could be misunderstood.
Okay. Let's move on to issues still related to that. On Wednesday, Mr. Mashatile, the panel of experts, the one in Parliament which has been tasked with investigating whether the president has the case to answer, will hand over the report. I know that the president took you in confidence, the NEC, but let's pause for a moment. And the panel says, actually, your president has a case to answer. Does that really worry you as the ANC?
Well, if there's any challenge against any of our leaders, we always have to be worried. But we believe that due process is important. At the moment, I know that the panel will present its report to the Speaker on Wednesday. Already, our team in Parliament said they will come and brief us. So we'll be ready on Wednesday to receive a report and hear what it says. We must always be ready to deal with challenges. I think the work we do is not easy. We are ready.
So what is the position of the ANC on this matter? Because we are talking about actually
2 days.
2 days. 2 days. It's not something we are theorizing about. It's something that is happening in 2 days. What is the position of the ANC in terms of how you will approach it? I know if it says there's no case to answer, so you wouldn't be worried. But should it say there's a case to answer? Remember, this is the face of your party. This is the head of state. So what happens to him? We may all be equal, but he's the first among the equals.
I spoke to the team in my office when we heard that the report will be ready on Wednesday. And I indicated to them that come Wednesday, we should have a special meeting of officials, what you normally call the top 6. At the moment, we are 4. We should have a meeting and look at what the report says. We don't want any of our officials to start commenting until we have that meeting. So for now, I want to leave it at that.
So you have no position, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. We're waiting, and we'll have a discussion on Wednesday.
Clearly, it's the issue from what you are saying, as much as you're not saying much, that is bothering you from your expression.
No, obviously, if there's a matter of that magnitude, any leader will be bothered. But I think it's important for leaders to converse, have a discussion, and not rush to make conclusions. That's why we will be meeting on Wednesday.
Would you have preferred, as the ANC, not necessarily as you as a person, that the president could have handled this matter differently?
Well,
so that we are not having this kind of discussion.
Well, I'm not sure how else he would have handled it, because in his view, he said, let's allow a transparent process to deal with the matter. I think that's the best way, so that there's nobody who can say the president interfered with anything. All these are independent bodies, and I think it's the best way that when they conclude with that kind of integrity, and the president has not said anything, has not gone nearer, and nobody can say there was manipulation. I think it's the best way to have independent bodies deal with matters of that magnitude.
So you are also occupying the office of the Secretary General.
Yes.
Because of the step aside, so which obviously affected him. He has been in court for quite some time, but there hasn't been any resolution. Do you think perhaps you were quick as the ANC, I know it was your resolution, you were quick to resolve on this matter, and then find someone who can't even contest because of these issues? Is there a sense that you probably could have handled this thing differently around the SG and, of course, and others?
Well, it took quite a while to deal with this matter. You recall that at conference, the resolution was that we want to deal with crime and corruption decisively, and that one of the issues that is creating problems for the image of the ANC if there are allegations against leaders and they are not being dealt with, and hence a decision that we must come up with the mechanism of step aside.
Yeah.
It took a while before we could finalize the rules. Once we did, we then asked comrades to voluntarily go to the Integrity Commission to clear their names. Many have done. Some were even called by the Integrity Commission. And we respected that process. Some who did not comply, the NEC had to take a decision to enforce the step aside on them or even a suspension. I don't think there's anybody who was targeted or dealt with unfairly. I think everybody has been given an opportunity. And by the way, many people don't know that the step aside rule has an appeal mechanism. So all those comrades can actually appeal.
As it is applied currently, do you think it's fair? Do you think it is the right way to do it as it's being applied currently?
Very fair. In fact, the step-aside rule says come voluntarily. Because if you do so, remember the Integrity Commission is not a tribunal that will find you guilty or not. All they do, they pronounce on whether your conduct or what has happened to you, whether you are charged with a serious crime, brings the ANC into disrepute. What should happen afterwards is a decision of the ANC structure, your disciplinary committees, your NEC. The Integrity Commission itself does not charge people or clear them. All they do is to pronounce whether such conduct brings disrepute to the ANC, because we want to protect brand ANC, not individuals.
Some of your senior comrades have really complained to say, as much as they are not opposed to it in principle, the manner in which has been applied has been unfair. Do you share that sentiment?
I've heard comrades really complaining, and it's a lived experience. Maybe in their view, what has happened to them was not fair, but it was not intended to be like that. To the extent that others feel that the application is unfair, I think we should relook at that.
Let's come to resolutions of the party. Some of the resolutions, obviously, step aside is part of them. Do you want the bank to be nationalized, Reserve Bank?
It's a decision of conference. You'll recall that at conference we took that decision. We came back as the leaders. We looked at the implementation, and those who are deployed in government came back and say, hey, there's a challenge here because, we need to pay out minority shareholders, and it's a lot of money. Do you want us to rather use this money for service delivery or pay these people? And we thought, well, if we have to pay a lot of money now, rather let's use it for service delivery. There's a big debate now because there are those who are saying, no, in fact, it won't be a lot of money. So I think we should look at it and engage with those who are there. There were some people who were saying, the value of the South African bank could be as high as 600 billion rands. So to pay minority shareholders, you might even need 50 billion. And there are other people recently that have been engaging with us who are saying, no, in fact, it will be much less, don't worry. If your worry is the money, don't worry, do it, it will be less. We are open-minded because the issue is not so much whether we wanted to nationalize or not, it was the implementation thereof.
Okay. What is your view, being informed by the ANC on this matter?
My view, whether we should nationalize or not?
Obviously using the ANC template.
Well, I go with the decision of the ANC, but cautious of the timing and how we get the resources. Should indeed it be true that we don't need the kind of resources that are bandied around, we will proceed to make sure that the bank is publicly owned 100%.
So why have you failed on the land issue to pass anything in Parliament? Remember, you were not able to garner support from the most enthusiastic people around land, the EFF.
Well, we didn't have a two-thirds majority, so we needed to agree with the EFF absolutely. But there were situations where we could not agree on certain principled and formulation matters. And so something that was agreed upon was somewhere in between. because of lack of that agreement, because it is our two parties, the ANC and the EFF, that could take that resolution through without a problem. But once we couldn't agree, it suffered. But it's not like the doors are closed for engagement with the EFF.
That leads me to the next question. Looking ahead to 2024, obviously you are hoping for a decisive victory, but it's possible it may not happen.
Yeah.
Will you be open to working with EFF or any other party in a coalition government should you fail to get over 50%?
Indeed, it has always been our position that let's work with others. But of course, when we go into election, we campaign to win and win decisively. But we have already accepted the reality that we may not, and therefore we must be prepared to work with other parties. And you can see it's happening already in local government.
Yeah.
Our comrades have been meeting with the EFF and other parties and coming to good agreements to run those municipalities.
Because we are going to a close now, Mr. Mashatile. Let me put you on the spot.
Yeah.
If you were to choose between the DA and EFF, who would you work with?
You really put me on the spot, but
Yes.
the EFF and the ANC's policies are quite similar. So we are much closer to the EFF than we are to the DA in terms of policies and ideologies.
Is that an answer that you would more prefer to work with EFF?
Indeed.
But in Ekurhuleni, you have not been able to work together. Why?
We are.
No, I'm talking about the mayorship there, so had to go back to the DA because you couldn't agree.
Yeah, it was not so much the ANC refusing to work with the EFF. I think it was more our comrades there not agreeing on the approach. As I speak to you, the EFF and the ANC are still meeting.
Well, Mr. Mashatile, thank you very much. I don't want to spoil this any further.
Yeah.
It was nice having
Nazareth.
I certainly will meet and we'll talk, and I will remind you on a number of issues, even if the floor decides to do its own thing.
Yeah, let the floor do its
Well,
thing.
Bongiwe
Thank you.
Francis, that was the Treasurer General of the ANC, who's also occupying the position of the Secretary General. And then he has a new one, the ANC Deputy President nominee. So I don't know on the 20th whether we'll be calling him the Deputy President of the ANC.